to say that I'm very grateful for the effort that you all have put in over more than a year now on the VLab improvement team to sort of support this effort and attend these calls and help us, the VLab, myself and the VLab development and support teams, to prioritize the sorts of things that we should be working on, and to provide sort of independent and objective input into that particular area, and that has been highly valuable to us. I think from my standpoint that's exactly the type of support that we needed and we will continue to need, and I want to thank John Ice in particular and Brian Moretsky as well for chairing and vice chairing this over these months, and really setting a good precedent for the VIT or the VIT moving forward in supporting the VLab's mission and its goals. So I, again, thank you so much for providing that service, because it really is a service, and I realize everyone has extremely limited time and bandwidth to devote to things like this, and but we really do appreciate it, and I sincerely appreciate it. So I wanted to take some time to sort of dialogue with you all, if you would indulge that. After about a year now of working on the VIT, to sort of get your opinions on sort of where we have been, where we're at in the VLab, and where we need to be going to not just with the VLab, but with the VLab improvement team as well. I think it's important to reflect, from time to time on these sorts of things, and to assess, are we on the right path? Do we need to do a course correction? What types of things could make it better, both the VLab and the VIT, if you will. So I'll start out the discussion from my own perspective. I already have, to a certain degree, that from where I sit, I guess the modest goals we had for the VIT have been, fulfilled very well in terms of providing us this sort of independent assessment of what we're working on and what incoming user suggestions, where they rank and rack and stack, are they worth us pursuing. So that alone has been extremely valuable. But I wonder if there is, from your perspective, if there are other things that you feel like have not, the VIT has not been able to, in its purview and its meetings, to been able to address, that sort of you feel like is lacking, things that you would like to be able to discuss and provide feedback to us. Pretty broad in that context. Anything goes as far as what you think, it could improve things, and for the benefit of this endeavor. I will say that over the course of your, the first inaugural year, if you will, of this team, the VLab has continued to improve, and we have been working on things both tactical and strategic. And the number of users continues to grow. The number of projects, the number of hours spent in the VLab actually doing work continues to grow. So we're on a strong growth path, broadening across NOAA, and so that's very good. I think we're less in a position of trying to market VLab as something that people should sort of dip their toes in the water and try, to more looking at how we can enhance what we already have, and number one, make sure that the services that we promise are delivered to everyone in a robust, stable, and high performance manner. we continue to work with the NSEP's central processing office to make sure that the performance of VLab is up to snuff. And as you may know, we're in the IDP infrastructure, which is a relatively new piece of IT infrastructure for Weather Service. And it's safe to say that NCO continues to have to work through the bugs, so to speak, to be able to deliver on the stability that we're looking for. But we continue to work with them on that, and we're, again, putting in both strategic and tactical measures to improve. So that being said, I think there's a lots of lots of ways we could go and further enhance what we're already doing and add completely new features. One of the things that was good about, I think, the concept of the VLab is it's not written in stone, that we can consider new things, we can pilot new things, new capabilities, within resources and our time, test them out, and then, if proved successful, roll them into production so that everybody can benefit. I know Ken Sparrow is constantly looking at those types of things, and we already have a number of things in the next year or so that we're looking to try to improve. We continue to work on, I would say, some boulders, boulders, rocks, and pebbles kind of enhancements. Boulders, one of the big one we're sort of on the precipice of is to move NSEP's modeling code suites into the VLab, along with the rest of what's already there in NSEP. This is a big goal for folks, not just in Weather Service but in NOAA in general, as the next generation global prediction system comes online and requires that there's lots of new players beyond NSEP who are doing modeling code, and how do you manage that code in a way that folks in universities and elsewhere can contribute and still maintain your security posture with dealing with high FISMA high systems and very important modeling systems for NOAA. So those are some of the, that's an example of a boulder, I would say, that we're sort of about to begin to try to move in the next year, hopefully. But there could be other things, etc. So I think I'll pause there now and kind of open the floor for responses. And again, I think I'm interested to hear anything, but whether it's VLab in general or the VLab improvement teams more specifically. So I'll pause and anyone can jump in.
Well, this is John in Central Region. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Steve, for your continued support and your kind words. Really, the only thing I would like to add to this, and we had sort of just put our toes in the water a bit with it, was to kind of lay out a strategic plan for the future of VLab in general. And that's one thing I would like to see that this team actually work on, is a kind of what are the next steps, what's the long range planning, what is it that that seems like we're going to need. So that would be one of the things. I think you're right, yeah, and I appreciate everybody's help this year to kind of, like you said, we had to rack and stack the different things that were going on. And trying to keep that all, I think, sometimes tied in with all the other things that I know Ken is already sometimes piled on. It's like, well, I'm trying to get single sign-on done, and those sorts of things. Or we're trying to struggle to get things onto AWIPS, which is no small feat, I know. And trying to balance all that it's really tricky, and I hand a lot to both John and Ken and their work for getting us to where we're at. So anyway, but that's about all I had to say.
Oh, thanks, John. I really appreciate that. Especially your, strategic view. I think that's a wonderful suggestion, and we definitely could use some broad-based help on that from, the membership of the VLab improvement team. It does, speak to the dedication of everyone and the balancing act that is involved to try to make progress. So I would describe it as we're always looking for low-hanging fruit, and to sort of quickly go with here's an obvious candidate that looks like would benefit enormously from a VLab, from using VLab, but at the same time, we also know there's some fruit that are pretty high up in the tree, and we can't neglect those either. I was just an hour or so ago, I was at the NOAA Research Council meeting, and on the agenda for their meeting, they had the NOAA social science team provide a briefing, and the NOAA social science team has wisely, if I do say so myself, decided to create what they're kind of calling like a VLab Commons for social science, and that was very rewarding to see that they had seen that having this initially internal place within the VLab would be a good home for them to start to build a presence and sort of promulgate the social science message throughout NOAA, because a lot of people are asking about it, a lot of people want to know more about it, but they don't know where to go. And one of the big selling points to them was that if they go into VLab, they're not stuck with some over-the-fence kind of web page that they have to live with. They can sort of go at their own pace, develop things as reasonable, and grow it, and really take ownership of it over time. So I thought that was really a sign of the times, if you will, where we're at, and hopefully we'll see more of that. So thank you, John, for your comments. I do agree with you wholeheartedly.
Oh, you're welcome.
Others, and
yeah. Hi, Steve. This is Brian from Eastern. Also want to thank you for coming on the call today and opening it up to some feedback review.
Yeah, and by the way, we have the thickest skin in the world in VLab world, so don't hold anything back.
Okay.
I prefer to hear the good, the bad, and definitely the ugly, because that's the only way that we get better.
So what I was going to say is sort of a combo of what John is proposing and what you're talking about, and that may be one of the issues that are lacking, and that is that as we have been moving forward with the VIT, we've been looking at things, making suggestions, and the VLab support team led by Ken have been taking some of those suggestions, have been making changes, etc., in a sort of agile development path or framework. But what seems to be lost in this is it seems you and some of the other folks there have an idea of a strategic direction which helps to set some of the work that's being done by the VLab support team, and doesn't seem like there is connection sometimes between what the VIT is thinking about, what you all are thinking about as the VLab admins, and then also what the VLab support team is doing. It just seems like Ken's group might go do something and we're not sure why or what the reasoning is for it, and so I like the idea of the VIT being involved in the strategic direction, but the only way that we can be is if you and the others who control the VLab are a part of this group, and also helping to guide it, because otherwise we come up with something and you're going in a different direction.
Very good points, Brian. Yeah, so I think at a minimum, being communication about what we're juggling, from me maybe directly, is probably one thing that needs to happen, which would kind of be where I would come on regularly into these calls, at least provide that. I will say, and it's not a surprise to me that some of this appears, mysterious, or you're left to try to read between the lines, and there may not even be lines to read between, to figure out why we're doing something or not doing something, or why something. And but I guarantee there definitely is a rationale to it, and so if we could communicate that rationale, that would certainly help you all out. So I think I'll, at a minimum, make the suggestion that what at appropriate, maybe to what the VIT's schedule is, that I would come on and share with you that as a regular, either monthly or whatever is appropriate, so that and it is a question of juggling external forcing versus internal wants and desires, kind of a thing, and it's complicated by lots of things, funding streams, and et cetera, et cetera. So, but at a minimum, communicating that will help you all out. Let's put it that way. And I think we can sort out the hopefully what we're talking about is a strategic vision that everyone can agree on, and these other things are kind of little deltas that come along, low-hanging fruit that may appear, that we can that weren't necessarily in the vision, but for some reason they momentarily take over some of our bandwidth and resources. So yeah, that's really good.
And just to add on to that, what you're saying, the communication part, always key in an agile development framework, because you in your role, or somebody else at your level, may come in and have something to direct the VLab support team to do, and both, if we're not, there's two aspects of that. One, if we don't know about it from a VIT perspective, then we're just totally lost. And two, if we do know about it but don't have the opportunity to provide any feedback on it, then there also is a question of utility and usage of the VIT. And so, I'm not expecting, that we're always going to make the decisions, but if we're able and we have a strategic vision and we have an idea of what that is, and something comes along, you can bring it to the group, communicate it, and we can provide our feedback, and we can have a discussion, and it could be a two-way discussion as opposed to, well, this comes from on high, we have to do it. I know there's some of those things that will happen anyways, but making it more of a two-way discussion would be helpful.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. And I think this group is, we're all mature professionals, can deal with the vagaries of these kinds of things. So no, I think it's a really good suggestion, and we will act on that in short order. So thank you, Brian. Did you have some other comments that you?
No, I want to open it up to others.
Okay, sure.
And this is Steve Mango. I'm helping to represent Nesdis on the VIT, and I don't want to ratchet down too soon because you've been up at the strategic level, but somewhere along the line maybe you can mention something on the more on the tactical level.
Sure, sure.
Along the level of improvements, and basically one of the things is a capability within VLab to do much more utilizing webinars, and it could actually be used to actually help improve the participation of some of the line offices. If we're speaking of looking at NESDIS, for instance, I'd say probably there's not much participation there, but if you look at the line offices within NOAA, NESDIS is kind of like an inside NOAA service organization to provide things for the other line offices, especially the Weather Service, especially Ocean Services, especially for fisheries. And, you know, it might want to think about a way for the bid to help initiate and maybe even help facilitate some things like webinars in order to be able to draw some people in and have a broader cross-NOAA participation. It could be a very powerful tool, and maybe it's my lack of awareness of how it is being used, but it just seemed like in browsing around that it was underutilized.
Yeah, Steve, that is an accurate assessment from where you sit, I think, of where we are in, and I'm speaking of, where we are in our, where the VLab is at right now in terms of the different line offices and their usage, etc. And it's a reflection of, sort of where the VLab grew up and our sort of core partners here in Weather Service. So our natural inclination was to focus on ourselves and OAR in particular. And NESDIS has been sort of out there as a target that is still, I think accurately, as you describe, is underutilizing VLab, and we need to do something about that. So, and our strategy in terms of, if you want to call it a strategy, I kind of hesitate to do that, has been more of a grassroots sort of an effort. We have done briefings at different, NOAA kind of groups like the Research Council and the CIO Council, and various demos of opportunity at conferences and workshops like the NOAA Test Bed and Proving Ground workshop or meeting or whatever it's called. But just next week, and this is maybe offline, you and I could talk about this, Ken is going to be in town, and we're going to be spending some time over in College Park, and so we were hoping maybe we could at least arrange for a VLab kind of demo briefing for NESDIS Star when we're over there in College Park. Are you over there in College Park?
No, I'm in Silver Spring Metro 1.
Oh, okay.
With the NESDIS OPA office, the old OSD office systems developed now under Suzanne Hilding. Yes.
Well, we could maybe do one over there too. So we know that there's much more that we can do in the way of direct to constituents or potential constituents kind of education, etc. That is very, without a doubt. There's limited bandwidth to do that, but I think we continue to try to improve in that area. And also one of the reasons that Ken will be here next week is we actually have a scheduled, I hope it stays scheduled because it's been moved at least once, a demo and briefing for NOAA's CIO, Zach Goldstein, which is sort of long overdue as well. And as Maya Hansen knows, if she's on the call, I mean that she's been instrumental in sort of making that happen. So getting the NOAA, I mean, the NOAA CIO is aware of this, but has never actually had a demo. So we're continuing to, I would say, work on penetration, and anything you can do, you know, through either through the auspices of the VIT or through us directly to promote that is something that obviously we're interested in. That all said, we do try to pace ourselves with that, because I mean, you're literally the same folks that generally involved with these kind of demos and briefings are the same folks who do the, you know, support team and development work. So if they're doing demos all the time, then we don't get new capabilities in. So there's a balancing act there. But yeah, no, Steve, your observation reflects my reality, and we want to start tackling Nestis in particular, as well as fish and NOS. I'm happy to say we have users now from every line office, but in some cases it's just a trickle or just a handful, I would say, compared to the say OAR users that we now have and Weather Service users. So thanks for that. Yeah, thanks for that, and thank you for you know, serving on the team.
One of the other things that little thing to go into the suggestion box is you might want to consider whether or not you can use VLab to host things like seminars, maybe even an existing series, so that you can get some electronic participation from some of the different members, and again, maybe cross NOAA a little better than otherwise, since a lot of the things like seminars could be very cross-cutting, but very often are just stovepiped in the different organizations, even at a lower level than the line offices.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion as well. You may know we have this VLab forum, and that has a history to it. It's a monthly seminar series, but it is focused on more the, you know, R&D projects themselves, mostly of interest to Weather Service and its partners. You know, one of the things I've been thinking about is, you know, sort of the wheelhouse for VLab is collaboration. So I'm interested in you know, some sort of dialogue forum, and I don't know exactly how we would do this, where we sort of discuss, you know, the science or research or whatever of collaboration within a NOAA context, or even broader than that, because I mean, really, that's one of NOAA's grand challenges that we're, you know, VLab is there to help out, is to facilitate that and enable it. But we all obviously come at it from our own perspectives, which are narrow and parochial. So maybe creating a kind of seminar series about collaboration itself might be, or development as it relates to collaboration, might be of use or of value across the agency. The other thing that this pings my what I wanted to mention too. I was thinking the other day that perhaps the time has come that we have some sort of like a VLab conference or workshop, internal NOAA sort of thing, where, you know, we spend a couple days bringing stakeholders in, where we you know, present stuff, give training, specialized training, and sort of get to meet each other face to face, that kind of thing. So thanks, Steve. Did you have additional thoughts or comments?
I like the idea of convening something like a workshop or something somewhere, maybe over at College Park might be a place that could accommodate some of those things. But I guess there was one other observation that I had, and that was that if you look at the inputs that come in for the VIT to look at, it seems like most of it's in the form of formal requests for action considerations, and it seems like they might be profitable to have a not so formal feedback from users that it could be privy to and possibly interact a little bit in order to really put things in perspective. I mean, I think a lot of people, there's a certain momentum level plateau that has to be reached in order to get in with a formal action, and then to be willing to, follow through with it, track it, if it's one that's a little more prolonged. But this could be on a more informal basis, not such a low level as, a tweet or something at that terse level, but something just that a little bit more informal, because I don't know about other VIT members, but I feel a little bit dissociated from some of the users, because all that you usually see are things like the formal actions to consider.
Yeah, that's an excellent point as well, Steve. And as you were speaking, I thought perhaps our pending rollout of the ideas marketplace in the VLab might be something that would fit the bill there. And I have to re-engage myself on what we're actually rolling out. But I think one of the intents would be so that people could just float an idea, and that those ideas could be on anything. That's the intent. But maybe we could have we could direct VLab users to use it to float ideas on improving VLab. That would be, as you say, not a formal request per a ticket, but just basically, hey, have you thought about doing this? And the VIT could plumb the ideas marketplace for that sort of thing.
Yeah, a VLab suggestion box would be the kind of thing. Yes.
Right.
Could be anonymous.
Yes. Exactly. Brian, is the ideas marketplace, or does it have? Can we make it anonymous, or I forget how we're doing that?
We didn't have it anonymous at the moment, but I think we have a suggestion box too, and John Chattel can update on that. But I believe it's just a general suggestion box as well. It's more, marketing this to all. John, is that correct?
Unmute, John.
Yeah, I'm unmuting. Okay, there we go. Sure. So if we go to our, where I think I had it, but I don't see it. The public side. There we go. The public side of our community has a. Wait a minute. I'm in the wrong place. You know what? I think we may have. Let's see here. This is the VLab improvement team, right? If I go there. There we go. So we have our suggestion form here, which folks on the team should at least recall having them put there. And the idea of this is to act as a suggestion box, quick and dirty. Just give us what your thoughts are, and then we take it from there. The other point worth noting is that we have on the virtual lab page, we also have this suggestion box of sorts, and it points them to our form as well, which is basically comes on a different page. So we do have a suggestion box out there. It is visible, and perhaps we could advertise it or something, but it does exist.
So where do the suggestions where do they go?
Okay.
Is there a workflow?
Yes, yes there is. So you noticed one of the first things we ask them is what organization they're from. And so when they select this, that dictates who receives that particular suggestion. So for example, at OAR, it would go to the OAR representative. And then I'm the one who receives them from the headquarters, I think. Oh, I'm other. That's right. I'm the other. So each of the regions has a representative. So yes, it does go to their email. They are alerted to the fact that they have a new suggestion. And then our procedure is guide folks through what happens once they receive the suggestion. But essentially it involves creating a VIT issue, which we then, of course, evaluate, rank, perhaps endorse, that sort of thing. And on it would go towards getting implemented.
So,
John, I appreciate that. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was just going to reveal some of the embarrassment about not being aware of some of the things that are there. So, John, I appreciate you pointing that out. But the comment was coming more from the idea of how the VIT does indeed get the feedback on the suggestions and use that as part of the discussion platform during the VIT meetings. You nicely pointed out how you can kind of act like the track switcher there to get them to the appropriate organization and line office, and that's great that you do that. I didn't realize that that's the way you were handling it, but it was more like having more of a group discussion of some of these, not just directing it to the organization of the originator of the suggestion.
But I'm taking from this is that safe to say, Steve, you've gotten 0 suggestions from Nessus, which probably is not surprising because there's not a lot of Nessus users. But have any of the other VIT members gotten a suggestion through this mechanism that you're aware of?
Yes, we have received suggestions through this mechanism, and I would say that it's not a steady stream. It comes in from time to time, and sometimes it turns out it's our own members using it as a way to sort of create the initial suggestion and get it into the pipeline. So I would think that this is one area that we could improve upon, is using the suggestion box more effectively. And one way that could be accomplished, of course, is through some sort of VIT member interface with their organization. So perhaps maybe they send out emails periodically, talking about what's going on in the VIT, that kind of thing, so that the visibility of the VIT goes up. And then, of course, one of the primary things the VIT does is solicit inputs, and of course that could be then part of the correspondence or communication that goes on between the VIT member and folks within their organization. Now, of course, some organizations are quite wide, quite large and widespread, dispersed. So, these are challenges we face, but certainly something we could look into and perhaps do better at in the future.
I appreciate it. Maybe we ought to chalk this one up. It's just that Nessus has kind of been a big player, as was alluded to, and glad to hear that there's been other participation to justify using it. Thanks.
Okay. Let's see. Thanks, Steve. Let's give some others a chance. Todd from NOS, did you want to chime in with something?
Yeah, it's what I was going to say. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. What I was going to say was NOS is kind of like in the same boat as Nessus. We were late to kind of embrace it. I will say that we just last week, or it was last week or the week before, I actually gave an internal presentation at NOS to the capabilities of VLab, and NOS is structured kind of like know as a whole, we have 9 separate program offices, all with separate IT management. So I was trying to tackle it is I had all the IT leads in one room, and I presented what VLab can do, how I'm using VLab personally for development projects. So at NOS, it's actually starting to trickle in that there's this amazing capability that's been kind of untapped, and we're starting to get more and more interest. I was actually on emails this morning about a requirement we had pop up for some of our grant workflow, and we're actually thinking that VLab would be the right tool for it. So I think from NOS you're going to see, as we get into 2017, far more engagement. I think there probably will be opportunities for you to present at, through Hugh Johnson, which I think you might have actually reached out to already about presenting some of the capabilities too. It will grow. It's bottom up at NOS. Once developers get their hands on it, I'm using Redmine specifically. We love it. It's starting to grow. Word's starting to spread, and I think it'll only go up from there. So I don't think there's any. I literally don't have any improvement to suggest because I think you guys are doing a great job. I pointed people to your website. You have wiki pages that explain it. I think the fact that you're a high system is huge as well. So just keep doing what you're doing, and we'll catch up to you guys.
Okay, great. Thanks, Todd. I really appreciate that. Because we're kind of running out of time, I want to try to check all the folks. Maya, I see, is on the go-to. Did you want to say anything, Maya?
Hey, Steve. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I would echo what Todd just said. NIMPS has certainly been new to this and has only just started messing around a bit with some of the VLab capabilities. I think some of the comments made earlier regarding sort of strategic direction and taking maybe a step back and looking at the VLab in general. I know there are a couple kind of big things around the VLab, including usability, user interface design, that could potentially be big products. And then the other thing that I would suggest, again, you mentioned it earlier, this idea of having some sort of VLab conference or VLab workshop, NOAA-wide, and in conjunction with that, just marketing. The biggest problem, or the biggest reason I think that people don't use it right now, is that they don't know about it. I certainly, as far as NIMPS goes, as the rep for NIMPS, I think I've gotten one suggestion through that suggestion box workflow that you were talking about. And I personally know of maybe 3 people who are using it in NIMPS, and most of them, it's because I've encouraged them to. So really getting the word out, finding ways to make it more and more easy to use, and kind of keeping the strategic direction in mind as the VIT needs as we have these conversations. Those are probably the big things for me.
Okay, thanks, Maya. Really appreciate all your support and engagement. It's been very beneficial. Let's see, Kate Howard. I see your name up there. Kate, did you want to chime in on the conversation or provide any?
Yeah. Agree with the last couple of folks. We've been a little slow to adopt it as well, but once folks get into it, they really like it. I think advertising is definitely a theme. Not enough folks know about it. I have to kind of tell people. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy, so no suggestions at this point.
Okay, thanks. Now I see the callers 1, 2, 3. I don't know who they are, and I see Doug Butts. So did any of you anonymous callers or Doug want to add to the discussion?
Sure, if I can find the mute button on this phone. This is Doug. Yeah, I tried using the VoIP thing, and I don't know, it crashed and burned on my computer. I think my initial take was, at least initially, was similar to what Brian mentioned at the get-go. Is that, you know, I thought we'd be involved. I would like to see us take a more strategic, a role in the strategic aspect of the VLab. But that's my big comment.
Okay, yeah, and I think we're gonna at least make an attempt to try to have a conversation, and conversation is a form of influence, provided that people are open, and I certainly am. So I think, Doug, we'll at least I think start having a conversation so that maybe the VIT members can know how they might contribute and influence that. And I do want to pick up on the idea of the strategic plan. I mean, originally, I don't know if you all of you are aware of this, but there was a VLab vision that was crafted by a team at the very beginning. Now, granted, it was a weather service team because at the time we were just focused on weather service, but I thought that the outcome of that vision was very good because it was a diverse team and people really made an effort to try to look broadly. So I'm a big fan of getting broad perspectives contributing to some kind of overarching plan, and you all are in the sort of best position to contribute given your history with the VIT. So we'll definitely, I think, hopefully you will, if you continue to be on the team, Doug, we'll be addressing that, scratching that itch.
All right. Yeah, I also like the idea of getting us all together and you know, getting in the weeds of, you know, maybe a little more demonstrative type, you know, face-to-face meetings, you know, would be nice, and getting us more involved in just going through and just showing us what the VLab can be used for. And I think that would help better sell it to our end-all customers from a regional perspective.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Doug. Did we have anyone else who wanted to chime in on the conversation? Okay, well, I want to, you know, sort of end where we began, which is thank you again all for taking a risk and spending some of your highly valuable time on something that you weren't really sure was going to be worth it. You still may not be sure if it's been worth it, but I can take my word, it's been worth it. You know, I think as we go forward, using that term, that awful term, going forward, things will improve as more and more users get engaged, and our challenge will be to try to maintain, you know, a ongoing conversation and kind of situational awareness, which I can see you guys haven't had really a good enough chunk of that. So we're definitely gonna try to improve your situational awareness about what's going on in VLab, so it's not so much of a magical mystery tour, and that hopefully will make you even more effective as VIT members. So, okay, John.
Great. So we do have one other item on our agenda for this afternoon, and that involves trying to select a new chair and co-chair. And post our last meeting back in August, we had put out the word that folks should begin soul searching to see if they could come up with, you know, the time and desire to put that capacity. So I'm wondering if anybody has, you know, is willing to come forward and be our new chair and co-chair. Okay. That's not.
I think, John, I said before this, Brian, I could continue my co-chair role, but I really will love it if one of the other line offices or something like that would be willing to step up as chair.
That's very, very good. We appreciate that. And so at least initially, perhaps we can just focus on finding a new chair. I think, as was pointed out at the last meeting, the amount of time one would commit is not extremely excessive. It's primarily a matter of showing up for the meetings, which of course are currently held twice monthly, but we're certainly not constrained to do that going forward. And so, the amount of time being committed is not super large. Would that help change anyone's mind?
So this is Steve. So I think maybe we can let folks think about it, except for Brian, who's already thought about it and volunteered for another go-round. If you want to chat with me about it offline, again, I think it's reasonable to say, that the commitment is no more than 12 months approximately. So if you have issues with your management chain or something like that that maybe I could help out with, you'd like to do it, or you're sort of on the fence, let me know. And because I think this is although it may not be your sounds all that thrilling, again, given the bandwidth that issues we all face, it's pretty, I would think, the potential to influence what's going on and improve your network through and leadership skills would definitely, I'm sure John can attest to that, right, John? Your leadership skills have just improved enormously, right?
Most definitely. Absolutely.
John Ice.
Oh, that John. Ice, yes. Gotcha.
That John, yes, John, right? So
Sorry,
think about it.
I had to unmute. Yes, I had to unmute. I would like to I'll still be involved from Central Region's point of view, but and yeah, I'm also encouraged to hear about the strategic planning, and I'm willing still to help out with that for sure.
Okay. All right. So I guess John Chattel, I guess we will postpone this, obviously, for the moment, but I would ask folks to sort of think seriously, and if you at all have an inclination, but may have an impediment, let me know, and we can see if we can in any way ameliorate your situation so that your participation will be much easier for you. Or I should say, you stepping up to the role would be easier.
Hey, John, you have on the next meeting is October 25th. Did you want to go back to a bi-weekly schedule, or were you suggesting that we go to a monthly schedule?
It turns out that the next meeting falls on a holiday.
Oh, yes.
I believe,
yes.
What would it be? Columbus Day. So
yes. Okay.
we could reschedule that meeting for a Tuesday, which would then get us off the holiday day. But I went ahead and just put this one on there since it was the next scheduled one.
Okay. No, that's fine. And just one more thing before and for the call while Steve's on here. I noticed that John, that you sent out like a VLab usage survey asking, do people find monetary value in the VLab? Interesting question, but I think that goes to sort of our discussion from earlier where, those kind of questions would be interesting to tie into a VIT/VLab manager / VLab admin sort of strategic vision. And maybe that's where you were going with that survey. I don't know, but just something to think about.
Yes. So Brian, we were always trying to convey the value of VLab to various folks. And so the survey was designed to provide more in the way of evidence that we can use. So it's I'm glad you raised that, though, because probably, John, at the next meeting, whenever it is, that I should brief out the results of that and some of the other metrics that we have to the VIT, so that they get them at least in that form. Because we are asked to, and I think we're doing a fairly good job of that, is to track our progress. With that particular survey question, we wanted to sort of go to the next step and see if we could quantify in a real dollar sense what our users are finding the value is in terms of dollars and cents, either in cost avoidance and not having to purchase software that they might otherwise have to purchase, or hardware, or just in a labor hours savings, that sort of thing. So we'll present those results at the next bit for you all to see, and that certainly falls in line with communication, improving our communication.
Sounds good.
All right. Okay. All righty. Well, I think that brings us to the top of the hour. So unless there's any last-minute input from anybody, we will call it a day and see everyone on the 25th of October.
Okay. Thank you, John. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.